Coming up now on Comcast Metrofone Sixers Insider, what's next? What's next from the upcoming draft? We go to an impartial source.
There's really a group of 5 players who is at the top of everyone's list right now.
What's next for the players on the Sixers roster from this past season? Who will be back and who might be back? And what's next for the front office? Who will be general manager and who will be coach?
I really am putting it in the hands of the guy that will be here, unless it takes so long that I have to make that decision. And I do want to be fair to Freddie.
I'm John Gurevich, your host for Comcast Metrofone Sixers Insider. The May edition, straight ahead.
Here's Sixer coach Fred Carter for Comcast Metrofone.
The service has been outstanding. They've really, Comcast Metrofone has really taught me how to use the telephone. You can't afford to miss messages. If someone has a deal out there that you can't refuse, you want to make sure you get that call. And there's like so many things happening in the ballgame as a coach, you're juggling so many things. Comcast really helps me juggle as well.
To get Comcast Metrofone on your team, call 1-800-234-9666.
Your team, your town, your 76ers. There's only one way to guarantee yourself a great seat for the great games. Only one way to make sure you're here next year for a Shaq Attack or a great view of Patrick Ewing. Call 339-7676 today and ask about Sixers ticket packages for next year. From our popular 7-for-6 plan to a full season package, there's something for everyone. Your team, your town, your 76ers.
Welcome to the May edition of Comcast Metrofone Sixers Insider, our final edition for 93-94. And once again, the 76ers offseason is promising to be interesting and exciting. Changes in the front office, the lottery, and then the draft, ways to build on what the Sixers already have. That's what we are laying out for you in this half hour. Let's put it in gear now with this month's quiz. As you probably know, the Sixers will have one of the top 10 choices in this year's draft, one of the top 9, actually. And it is around that fact that we have built this month's quiz.
Last year, the Sixers took Shawn Bradley with the number 2 pick overall in the draft. That was the 5th selection the club has had in the top 10 since 1984. Now, what we want to test you on is, who are the other 4 players the Sixers have taken in the top 10 in the draft over the last 10 years?
All right, as for this year's pick, the Sixers front office has been studying the draft for weeks already, and at this stage has a very good handle on what's out there. Now, the same can be said for Don Leventhal, the author, researcher, and publisher of an impartial and comprehensive NBA draft newsletter that comes out of Willow Grove. And with the lottery coming up on Sunday, May 22nd, and the draft following on June 25th, John Slobotkin tracked down Don Leventhal and paid him a visit.
As a fan, you delighted watching the early seeds of stardom. At times you were encouraged, seeing glimpses of greatness, knowing the time was definitely on your side. But players like Clarence Weatherspoon and Shawn Bradley usually come in the lottery, and that was the only comforting thought during a very long winter. Out here in Willow Grove, about 30 miles from the Spectrum, far away from this season's frustrations, one man doesn't dream of those picks, he potentially influences them. He's combined a passion for the NBA draft with extensive research into becoming one of the area's true hidden experts. Welcome to the world of Don Leventhal, writer and publisher of the Don Leventhal NBA Draft Report. He never played, coached, or scouted on a professional level, but if the nation's top players do anything of note, chances are Leventhal has heard about it.
There's absolutely no doubt in my mind. You know, some people can call it bragging or whatever, but there's no doubt in my mind that there's not an NBA general manager out there that knows more about these players than I do. I just know I put more work into it. I know that I have the love and the interest to do it, and it's not a job for me.
His home is a basketball library, littered with media guides, articles, major reference materials, and hours of videotape, each cataloging the nation's finest. His draft report features comprehensive studies on the nation's top 75 players. Don says his subscriber base is in the hundreds, and although only the Pistons and Pacers officially subscribe, he knows it ends up in the hands of at least a few other NBA decision makers. Now, if only they would turn to him on draft day.
I would definitely like to draft for an NBA team. Like, I would love Harold Katz to call me up, which he never has. In fact, I've never spoken to the man in my life. But I would love for him to call me and say, Don, do our draft.
Okay, Don, here's your chance. The Sixers' current position has them at 6, although that could change with the outcome of the lottery. They also own the 20th pick, acquired from Utah in the Jeff Hornacek trade. In the second round, they have pick number 33.
There's really a group of 5 players who is at the top of everyone's list right now.
Leventhal's list looks like this. At the top, Glenn Robinson, the nation's leading scorer. Grant Hill, Duke's All-American, is next, followed by point guard Jason Kidd and 2 juniors who declared early, Juwan Howard and Donyell Marshall.
I think Glenn Robinson would be the best player for the Sixers. Also, not to mention, just being a tremendous scorer, and he'll be a gate attraction. And he's the type of guy that can really step in right away and help this team. Grant Hill might end up being the first pick in this draft. He's just such a tremendous, versatile, all-around talent. That's why I think there are some teams that actually prefer Grant Hill over Glenn Robinson, so he may be the top pick. Jason Kidd is a very, very special player. But as far as a pure point guard goes, Jason Kidd is probably the best to come along in like 15 years, maybe the best pure point guard since, say, a John Stockton. But Juwan Howard is a true power forward. He's about 6'9", 240, plays with a great deal of intelligence, plays hard, and his stock zoomed with his great play in the NCAA tournament.
The next rung is not as clear-cut. 2 players most likely to follow are centers, George Washington's Yinka Dare and North Carolina's Eric Montross. Since the Sixers already have Bradley, they'll probably look to front-court rebounding. Leventhal mentioned Sharon Wright, a Moses Malone type from Clemson, or the athletic Carlos Rogers, who he says is on the rise. How about the possibility of those Temple kids, Eddie Jones and Aaron McKie, slipping down to the 20th pick?
Hardly any teams in, let's say, the top 20 where shooting guard is a glaring need. It's like, if anything, it's like their second or third need. In most cases, their third. So that's the one thing the 76ers have in their favor of possibly an Aaron McKie or Eddie Jones slipping down to 20.
Who else could be there? How about Arizona's Khalid Reeves? Texas point guard B.J. Tyler. Jalen Rose, another Fab 5 early defector. Eric Mobley, if the Sixers still have the power forward void. And Eric Piatkowski, the MVP of the important Nike Desert Classic. At 33, Leventhal likes Kendrick Warren, who compares athletically with Kenny Walker. Derek Alston, an untapped talent from Duquesne. Looking for names? How about Heisman Trophy winner Charlie Ward, who's come on strong with a nice postseason, and the pride of Indiana, Damon Bailey. This is clearly a crucial draft for the Sixers, and if they're as prepared as Don Leventhal, perhaps future hopes will be set on championships and not lottery picks.
This month's program is sponsored by Travel One, the official travel agency of the 76ers, with offices throughout the Delaware Valley for all your business and vacation travel needs. Travel One guarantees you the lowest fares, the highest level of service, and no surprises.
Hi, Mike Missinelli, editor of The Fan magazine. Hey, are you looking for a sports publication that holds back nothing, that goes hard after the real story? Well, you've got it with The Fan, Philly's newest and best all-sports magazine. Find out what thousands of subscribers have already discovered, that once you pick up an issue of The Fan, you won't be able to put it down. Watch for our latest issue featuring an in-depth, probing cover story on the dude, Lenny Dykstra. The Fan. Pick us up on newsstands throughout the Delaware Valley or subscribe by calling 1-800-THE-FAN-1.
All through this past season on Comcast Metrofone Sixers Insider, we've been giving you our pick for the Sixer of the Month. It's time for our 93-94 Sixer of the Year, obviously, Clarence Weatherspoon.
When the Sixers first drafted Clarence Weatherspoon in 1992, we didn't quite know what to expect. We soon found out that what he didn't appreciate was a rather well-intentioned comparison.
You know, those are some great comparisons, like I say, but, you know, I can't go out there and say, well, I got to be the next Charles. No, I got to go out and say I got to be the first Clarence.
By the end of the 92-93 season, he had indeed started to establish himself, setting a Sixer record for points by a rookie and getting attention from people around the league.
Well, I think he's one of the fine young players, you know, in this league. I don't think there's any doubt. He's had a full season under his belt. You know, he's worked extremely hard, from what I understand, to be a hell of a player, and he's that. So he's got a great future ahead of him. I think when they made the trade for Charles and drafted Clarence, that they got a player that's similar to him, and he's got a huge upside. He really does.
This season, Clarence Weatherspoon positively blossomed, dramatically increasing his scoring and rebounding numbers, playing better and better defense, and just starting to do all of the little things.
I think I'm gaining a little respect, you know, but I think the ultimate, you know, to get, you know, make it to the next level as a player, you know, you got to help your team win, you know, and that's one thing that's, you know, bothering me now because, you know, we hadn't did too well, you know, hadn't done too well this year, you know, and stuff, like I say, with injuries and stuff. So, you know, that's my next thing, you know, try to help this team rebound and, you know, become a winner again.
In the meantime, Spoon's accomplishments in the 93-94 season were remarkable. He averaged more than 18 points and better than 10 rebounds. And to put that in perspective, realize there were just a handful of players in the NBA this year to average more points and more rebounds. And a list of those players reads like a who's who of the top players in pro basketball. From start to finish this year, it was just an outstanding season for Clarence Weatherspoon. Clarence Weatherspoon, the 93-94 Sixer of the Year.
Okay, now, Spoon is one of a couple of Sixers who will definitely be back next season. In fact, it's unlikely you'll see the kind of complete overhaul of the roster this time around that you saw last year. As Tony Irving reports, there are some elements in place right now that the Sixers can build on for the future.
Where do we go from here? Well, it was a good start. The first half of the season was positive. We built a good foundation up, and we saw what is possible. So looking at that, it was a very good start. And I think the team had a good foundation, especially defensively, to start the year. Sean Bradley was a big presence, and he improved. So I think we're on our way in the right direction, you know, with a couple new players, and hopefully we'll get a real good player in the draft, and a couple other players that we will be a playoff-bound team next year.
That might sound slightly ludicrous to Sixers fans, but an objective analysis says the Sixers aren't that far away. Start with the front court where Clarence Weatherspoon laid the foundation for an outstanding career. Night in and night out, he was the opposition's #1 concern. But he responded to the challenge and improved in every category.
No question about it. I look for Clarence with the jump that he made this year and the consistency in which he played basketball. I feel that Clarence next year should be right at the superstar numbers, night in and night out.
As far as my play was concerned, you know, I think I put forth the effort from the first day to the, you know, to today, you know, and I think I did what they asked me to do. I picked up my rebounding, scoring, shot blocking, steals. I think overall my game increased. So, you know, like I say, as long as I'm getting increasing my game year after year, you know, what more can I give?
So we'll find out what the Sixers have to give. That should be the first order of business. He's not itching to go anywhere else. He just wants the dollars commensurate with being the team's anchor.
Language is the biggest thing about this thing, you know, the language in the contract between my side and Harold's side, you know, and I think we both got an understanding of that. You know, like I say, I think the right thing will be done, you know. I'm looking forward to being back next year.
Next season should include a totally healthy and stronger Sean Bradley. After his injury, teams drove the lane with impunity as the Sixers lacked a defensive presence in the middle.
We knew he had a big impact on the team, and we knew he was the anchor of our defense. But to see that dramatic change when he was in the lineup and not in the lineup was very surprising. And I think, you know, that'll help Sean with his confidence, too. He'll build up his body over the summer. He'll come back, and I think he'll make a big impact next year.
If the Sixers are looking for a backup center, they need to look no further than late-season pickup Isaac Austin. He's a big body with a good attitude who understands what it will take to have season-long success.
You know, I tried to do the things Fred asked me. I mean, from the get-go, he told me, hey, you come in here, rebound, run the floor, you know, score when you have to. you know, you can make a home here. And I feel that, you know, I try to do the things that they ask me. I know I got a lot of things to work on, you know, weight-wise. This summer it's a big summer for me. And I'm really taking that, you know, dedicating myself to that. And I feel that I'll be ready. I'll be ready next year.
The Sixers would also be served well by re-signing Orlando Woolridge. Acquired once the season got underway, he brought scoring off the bench and some leadership during the tough times.
Woolridge, I think, did not only what we asked, but maybe then more so. I thought he did an excellent job. And he also, I think, lent some leadership, you know, during the back part of this year when that was, you know, really vital for these young players going through a tough stretch.
Lynham cites defensive rebounding as the Sixers' biggest concern. In terms of potential free agents, the Chicago Bulls' Horace Grant would look very good in a Sixers uniform.
There are some good free agents. I think we'll have the room under the cap to be eligible to go after these guys, but there's going to be 10, 15 teams bidding on the same guys. So it's going to be difficult getting a quality free agent, but we're going to try it.
The backcourt seems to hold the most question marks. Dana Barros is a free agent this summer. Johnny Dawkins seems to have lost his competitive edge. Rookie Greg Graham needs refinement, which leaves shooting guard Jeff Malone as the only sure thing. Owner Harold Katz says the Sixers need a little bit of this and a little bit of that.
Exactly what? Well, we'll sit down with the man in charge as Comcast Metrofone Sixers Insider continues.
In this business, you only have 5 players playing at one time, so one player can make a major impact.
9 consecutive years I'm traveling with the Sixers now, and once again, Travel One is handling all of the team's hotel, ground, and flight arrangements. Look, when you're on the road, you need a travel agency that's responsive and absolutely reliable. Next trip you have, call Travel One.
When Sixer coach Fred Carter decided to get cellular phone service, the company he signed on with was Comcast Metrofone.
Just the ability to receive phone calls, the ability to make phone calls on the run. I'm always on the run, in my car, to the office, to practice, back home. So you're able to receive calls and make calls. So my Comcast Metrofone really is like my 6th man.
To get Comcast Metrofone on your team, call 1-800-234-9666.
Your team, your town. Go 76ers. There's only one way to guarantee yourself a great seat for the great games. Only one way to make sure you're here next year for a Shack Attack or a great view of Patrick Ewing. Call 339-7676 today and ask about Sixers ticket packages for next year. From our popular 7-for-6 plan to a full season package, there's something for everyone. Your team, your town. Go 76ers.
Welcome back to the May edition of Comcast Metrofone Sixers Insider, our season finale for 93-94. I'm John Gurevich. And still to come, this month's IBM NBA Solutions segment and the answers to this month's quiz. We're looking at what's next for the Sixers, and that's a question you cannot answer without talking to Harold Katz. He's got a GM position to fill now that Jim Lynham has been named coach of the Washington Bullets, and there are decisions to be made on the coaching position, the draft, free agents, and players on the roster already.
I got a chance to meet with Harold Katz a few days ago, and all of those issues were on the agenda, beginning with finding a new general manager to replace Jim Lynham.
Well, I will make a list, and the old axiom, study it twice, and then make some phone calls, bring in some people. We'll do that right away, but we're not going to just take the first applicant. If the first applicant was a guy that I was absolutely positive with, I would do it. But at this point, we'll probably look at it. We know the draft right now, and Jimmy's done a real good job, and Gene Shue, and Tony's here right now, and Jeff Rulin, and they're all doing it. So we know the players. The only thing you have to do now is to make sure that which spot you're in, and who's picking prior to you, and know who they're going to take.
Right now, in light of the general manager situation in particular, what's your thinking on the coaching situation?
Well, I had stated previously that I wanted the general manager to name the actual coach, and I'm not sure if that timing now will be satisfactory for that. So we may have to name the coach, but frankly, if we get the general manager quick enough, then he will name the coach.
Okay, so have you decided that you want to make a change, or that you haven't even?
I really am putting it in the hands of the guy that will be here, unless it takes so long that I have to make that decision. And I do want to be fair to Freddie, and so this can't drag out for a long period of time.
Okay, the draft is going to be the big thing coming up. 3 picks in the top 33. What's your idea about what the Sixers can take out of this draft?
Well, I think recently all the top undergraduates came out, so it makes our chances now far better. We will get a very good player in the low half, okay, the first pick. We'll get a good player with the second pick of the first round. And I believe because of the nature of all these players coming out, at 33, we will get a very good player also. So the odds are that we'll wind up with 3 NBA players through the draft.
How about free agents or trades? I mean, Horace Grant is a big name out there.
Horace Grant, Danny Manning, Dominic Wilkins. There are free agents. Scott Williams. There's free agents, and we're going to dabble and look into the free agency market. We're going to look for trades. We're not going to go into the season satisfied on last year's record.
Do you have some cap space to play with for that?
Yeah, we do. Yes, we do. So we're going to be, in fact, we have room for the top picks money and for a possible free agent.
All right, now what about guys coming back? And I want to ask you specifically about Spoon and Sean Bradley. Spoon's got that contract situation that's not entirely clear?
Well, if both parties agree, meaning the 76ers management and Weatherspoon, then he has the ability to become a restricted free agent. However, prior to doing this, we both sat down 2 years ago and said under certain conditions. I'm not at liberty to discuss those conditions, but if those conditions were there, then he would be a restricted free agent. If they're not there, then he would not be a restricted free agent. Either way, he will be a member of the 76ers. So I can assure you that.
Okay. How about Sean Bradley? Are you satisfied with what you've laid out in terms of off-season conditioning?
Well, as we're speaking, we have Lee Haney at the moment working out with Sean Bradley, and Lee Haney is a former, I think, Mr. World, Mr. Olympia, Mr. Universe, Mr. Everything. And Sean is looking forward to this, and I think the first thing he needs is strength, and we're going to work on that. And hopefully in the first week of let's say July, we will have Jabbar here with him also on the basketball side. So I think from the standpoint, if he gathers some strength and he learns from, I think, the finest center who practically ever played it offensively, and fits his build, and I think he's the right guy for Sean Bradley. So I think you'll see a giant upside this year, as long as Sean does the work necessary this summer.
That's an agreement you have with Kareem in place?
We have it ready to go. I'm just waiting for him finalizing that date. Yes.
Okay, Harold, when you have your vision of the 76ers for 94, 95, and for beyond that, how do you see this team evolving?
Well, I would say management always visions a championship team. You don't go into the season thinking you're going to lose, but you have to be realistic. Right now, we are far from, the actual championship stage. But in this business, you only have 5 players playing at one time, so one player can make a major, major impact. If we were lucky to get, let's say, a Jason Kidd, a Robinson, a Marshall, a Hill, a Howard, a Murray, those type players will make a giant impact the first year. If we're lucky enough to get a Grant, a Manning, a Wilkins, or so on, then 2 players, then we're ready to actually contend. So in this business with 5 players, you can make a giant changeover in 1 year.
Coming up next, the answers to this month's quiz.
Travel One, business and leisure travel professionals serving the Delaware Valley for more than 25 years. The guaranteed lowest fares and the highest quality service. For a location near you, call 1-800-676-TRIP. Travel One, no one does more.
Looking for guarantees? How about Prism Kids? 90 minutes of commercial-free children's programming every Sunday morning. Superstar Sunday, today's top stars in today's top movies every Sunday night. The Great Sports Debate, the most outrageous sports talk on TV every Tuesday night. Baby Boomer Theater, great films from the 50s, 60s, and 70s every Wednesday night. Some channels offer one guarantee: we can't stop. Prism, satisfaction guaranteed.
Over the last couple of months, we've given you a special IBM NBA Solutions segment. And for this May edition, we have a look at the so-called IBM Award and the IBM Coach of the Year.
Problem. How can you determine which player has contributed the most to his team's success? And what do you call an honor that symbolizes intelligence and excellence in problem solving? Solution. The IBM Award and the IBM Coach of the Year. The IBM Award is based on a computer-generated statistical formula. Each player's numbers in several categories are compared to the overall numbers of his team in those categories. Then the number of games his team has won is factored in. In 92-93, the IBM Award was captured by Akeem Olajuwon. Now, for the just concluded 93-94 season, the winner of this year's IBM Award, the Admiral, David Robinson. Top computer point total accrued by a 76er was generated by Clarence Weatherspoon. This season's IBM Coach of the Year will not be announced until the end of this month. In 92-93, it was Pat Riley. Finalists for the honor this time around include George Karl, who guided a talented but potentially divisive Seattle team to 63 regular season wins. Phil Jackson, who was faced with the challenge of making up for the loss of Michael Jordan and whose Chicago team won 55. And Lenny Wilkins, in his first year in Atlanta, who took what appeared to be a 500 team and made it the top club in the Eastern Conference.
All right, and time now for the answers to this month's quiz. Okay, the Sixers will again have one of the top 10 selections in the draft this year. And as we said near the beginning of the show, it's an opportunity the Sixers have had a number of times since 1984. So let's see if you've come up with the right names on this.
When the Sixers took Sean Bradley, number 2 overall last year, it was the club's 5th draft choice in the top 10 over the last 10 years. We wanted you to come up with the previous 4. Well, Clarence Weatherspoon was a top 10 selection in 92, going 9th overall in the draft that season. In 88, the Sixers technically drafted Charles Smith with the 3rd selection, and hours later traded him to the Clippers to get Hersey Hawkins. And in 84, the Sixers took Charles Barkley with the 5th pick overall. And that same year at number 10, they went with what turned out to be a rather undistinguished player in Leon Wood.
Yes, whatever happened to Leon Wood? Actually, he's been in Europe the last couple of seasons, and this past year averaged about 20 points a game for a team in the A1 League in Italy. Okay, that's it for the May edition of Comcast Metrophone Sixers Insider and for the 93-94 season. So co-producer Dave Kelleher and I would like to extend our thanks to our sponsors and to everyone at Prism and Sports Channel who make the show possible. And thanks especially to you for watching the show. Hey, keep your fingers crossed. The lottery is Sunday the 22nd, and we'll see you next year.